Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Ilevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. Don't forget, later today, we'll head to the Ohio Corn Growers Office for their next monthly update, and then we'll keep track of the Ohio Crop Tour. Let's find out more about it. Let's check in with Dusty Sonnenberg.
Dale, the 2025 Ohio Crop Tour hits the road this week. On Tuesday and Wednesday, August the 5th and 6th, our teams will be scouting Ohio, crisscrossing the Buckeye State, scouting corn and soybean fields to try and estimate what the yields will be. We'll also be looking at the crop quality, any disease concerns out there. In particular this year, it could be interesting to see what pollination looks like in that corn crop, and also overall the maturity of the crop, as we had a large variety of planting dates in the spring. The Crop Tour participants are made up of agronomists, seed dealers, farmers, and extension personnel. And you can check it out on Tuesday for our midday and afternoon radio programming and Wednesday for the morning, midday, and afternoon programming. Of course, stay tuned to our website, ohioagnet.com, for updates throughout the day and on social media as well. The Ohio Crop Tour is sponsored by the Ohio Field Leader. That's a project of the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff.
And thanks, Dusty. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Another mostly dry day across Ohio. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag Weather Update. Still seeing a little bit of lingering cloud cover off the area to our south that had scattered showers yesterday. Eastern parts of Kentucky, even seeing some of this cross the Ohio River into the state. So I think we have to allow for some hit and misses, scattered showers later this afternoon into the evening hours. Coverage very, very minor. The rest of us are going to be turning out partly to mostly sunny. High pressure builds in over areas just north of Lake Huron for midweek on Wednesday. So we're back to full sunshine for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but we're also seeing humidity values creep up just a little bit. We are going to be precipitation free, I think, through most of the weekend. Saturday evening, we may have to deal with a few hit and misses, scattered showers trying to come up from the south into southwestern parts of Ohio, west central parts of Ohio, quarter of an inch or less, 40% coverage. That's all I'm talking, but it's there. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. And then for Sunday, we are mostly dry. A frontal boundary building off to our west and northwest is going to try and come through Sunday overnight through Monday and Tuesday of next week. That's likely our best chance of rain out of the next 10 days. Combined over a couple-day stretch, I think we can see a quarter to three-quarters of an inch, but it's coverage only still at 75%. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. The Ohio Crop Progress Report is sponsored by Unleaded 88. Save on fuel with the blue handle. Fill up with Unleaded 88. Discover more at ohiocornandwheat.org. Nationally, the condition of the U.S. corn crop remained steady last week, while soybean conditions decreased 1 point. That, according to USDA's NAS Weekly Crop Progress Report released yesterday. Corn dented was 6%, silking 88%, and 73% of the crop was rated good to excellent condition. The soybean blooming was pegged at 85%, 69% rated good to excellent condition. Spring wheat is 95% headed, 5% harvested, and 48% is rated good to excellent condition. The winter wheat was 86% harvested. If you're looking at Ohio numbers, we first look at the August release of corn silking is on par with the 5-year average, while corn in the dough stage is slightly ahead. Soybeans blooming and setting pods are both on track with the 5-year average. In Ohio, 59% of the corn is rated good to excellent. The soybean crop is also 59% rated good to excellent. Let's check in on the dairy world. It doesn't really need to be said because evidence is everywhere, but it's worth repeating. In light of how easy it is to lose focus among turbulence in labor, trade, and politics, dairy's future is incredibly bright. Any skepticism toward the idea can quickly be countered with about 10 billion reasons. That's the dollar amount of investments in new dairy processing capacity that's coming online between the dates of 2023 and 2026, according to the National Milk Producers Federation analysis. Ultimately, these investments are an investment in the U.S. dairy farmer. From Washington State to Georgia, manufacturers are placing their bets on increased consumer demand for dairy products. State-of-the-art facilities are promising to put affordable, nutritious dairy foods on the store shelves and dinner plates in the United States and around the world. The processing growth is creating new outlets for dairy farm production, a tide that lifts all boats across the industry. And the realization that growing consumer demand isn't just a forecast, it's current reality. U.S. fluid milk consumption rose last year for the first time since 2009. Milk's market share versus plant-based continues to rise. Cottage cheese has emerged as the go-to snack food for Generation Z. And per capita, overall U.S. dairy demand continues at levels last seen in the 1950s. All that is a tribute to the fact that even with all the diet diversification since then, dairy remains a bedrock of American diets, accessible to all, affordable, and trusted. It's also a tribute to the industry's vision and how long-term producers' investment in the dairy checkoff has encouraged innovation in new research, technologies, and products. Overseas sales remain a bright spot for the industry as well. That may seem surprising given all the headlines of volatility in global trade and the United States tries to reset global commerce, but it's true. In 2025 through May, the value of U.S. dairy exports was $3.873 billion, 13% higher than last year. That's a powerful testament to the resilience of the U.S. dairy producers and exporters who work around the clock, managing and building relationships that are being heavily tested this year. While overall year-to-date sales volumes are slightly down, the Chinese retaliatory tariffs have heavily weighted down sales to that market. Higher value products like high-protein whey products have grown 8% by volume and 30% by value year-to-date. Similarly, U.S. cheese exports are up 7% by volume and 18% by value when compared to 2024 exports through May. Recent progress in new trade deals have trade partners such as Indonesia also brings encouragement that eventually trade waters will calm with new opportunities possible for U.S. dairy producers as the turbulence ebbs. Thank you, U.S. Dairy Export Council. Thank you, National Milk Producers Member Cooperators. And thank you, NEXT program. And most of all, thank you, dairy farmers, for keeping this momentum going. All this, of course, isn't meant to give short-sightedness to the significant challenges ahead. At National Milk Producers Federation, we are well aware of the workforce challenges facing dairy farmers as a nationwide crackdown on illegal immigration disrupts agricultural workforces. Current trade success so far doesn't mean policy upheaval can't damage or reverse progress, nor that export momentum will stay the same if new trade policies don't improve global access opportunities. And consumer confidence faces misinformation threats that only become more sophisticated. Back with more after this.
Get the equipment and trucks you need at the Ritchie Brothers' next Great Lakes Regional event on August 7th and 8th. This absolute unreserved auction will feature online bidding, and items are located in Columbus, Chicago, and Detroit. Choose from close to 1,000 items, including a wide selection of construction equipment, truck, tractors, and more. Don't miss Ritchie Brothers' Great Lakes Regional event on August 7th and 8th. For more details, visit rbauction.com. Again, that's rbauction.com.
Tuesday, August 12th is the day to be in Fayette County for the Southwest Ohio Corn Growers Agronomy Field Day beginning at 9 a.m. at the Fayette County Airport, Washington Courthouse. Hear from experts like Aaron Wilson, Scott Shear, Rodrigo Worley, Emma Matcham, Tad Nicholson, Mitchell Feeney, and Wendy Osborne on the latest in ag weather, weeds, cover crops, and more. Enjoy free breakfast and lunch, plus a chance to win one of two $500 gift cards for Corn Growers Mowers. Details can be found at fayette.osu.edu.
Quick look at other notes on the calendar. On Thursday, we'll be with Axis Seeds at the Mercer County Fair, and that'll take place with our fourth check presentation of the season, all thanks to Axis Seeds. And on Friday, the Henry County Fair is on. Dusty will be there. It runs the 7th through the 14th, and experience Henry County's brand new event center right on the fairgrounds. Check out henrycountyfair.org for a full schedule of events. Let's peek into the livestock markets before we get to the grain. It ended up being a positive day for livestock complex, with all three of the markets closed higher yesterday. New show list appear to be mixed, higher in Kansas and Nebraska, Colorado, but somewhat lower in Texas. The live cattle complex traded back and forth throughout Monday, appearing unsure about its direction as traders weigh the pros and cons of trading the market higher or lower. But to cattlemen's favor, the live cattle complex closed higher by Monday's end, although the gains were minimal. We'll take it. Also looks like, more than anything, traders seemed willing to allow the contracts to chop sideways throughout the day, but weren't willing to extend themselves and welcome any more vulnerability. New show list appeared to be mixed, higher in Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, but somewhat lower in Texas. Monday slaughters estimated at 101,000 head, 7,000 head less than a week ago, and 15,000 head less than 1 year ago. Box beef prices closed higher, choice up $1.10 and select up $1.09 with a movement of 109 loads. In feeder cattle, it looks like contracts traded back and forth throughout Monday, unsure about which way the market should truly lean, but thankfully, ahead of Monday's close, the market did indeed muster up enough support to close higher, with deferred months again seeing the biggest day-over-day gains. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information on your soybeans, call Louis Dreyfus at 574-566-2113. With more information on the markets, here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets started off this trading week on a mostly mixed note. Soybeans and the whole soy complex were a little bit stronger. Corn was choppy, but spent more time in negative territory than positive, and the wheat market had Chicago and KC up a bit, while Minneapolis was down. Fund managers were on the buy side of the entire board of trade yesterday. Corn futures were lower on intercommodity spreading. Rumors yesterday had StoneX coming out with an absolutely huge U.S. corn yield at some point this week. Now, to be clear, their number was already monster at 186.9 back in a July estimate. So we'll have to see whether that number comes out and does what it could do, but that knowledge or rumor did pressure the corn and soybean ratio spread. The November-July soybean spread reached a low discount of 62 cents per bushel. That spread is telling traders and producers that it does not see nearby Chinese demand for U.S. new crop soybeans anytime soon. China is seeking additional Akin Nova soybeans out of South America. Research says that the 25-26 soybean export number should be no more than 1.5 billion bushels, and WASDE is way too high, currently sitting at 1.745. So that is one story out there. Brokers estimate that funds have bought 3,200 contracts of wheat, 1,900 contracts of bean, 4,500 contracts of corn. Actually flipped those. 1,900 contracts of corn, 4,500 contracts of beans. Export inspections for the week ending July 31st, 47.5 million bushels on corn, 22.5 million bushels on beans, 22 million bushels on wheat. For the respective crop years to date, the U.S. has shipped out 2.423 billion bushels of corn, 1.757 billion bushels of beans, and 143 million bushels of wheat. Otherwise, the news yesterday was relatively limited. Weather looks pretty doggone good over a lot of key growing areas here the next few weeks, even though we're starting to show signs of moving back toward a drier forecast in many areas for the month of August. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, September corn down 3 at $3.84. December down 2 3/4 at $4.04 1/4. The March down 2 3/4, but at $4.22. The August soybeans down a penny at $9.68. November down 3 1/4, trading $9.91 1/4. March down 3 1/2 at $10.26. September wheat down 4 at $5.12 3/4. December down 4 at $5.33. March down 3 3/4 at $5.52. In livestock, August cattle up 77 at yesterday's close at $230.90. October up 42 at $224.10. August lean hogs up 82 at $108.17. October up 85 cents at $90.90. September feeder cattle up 52 at $334.45, and October feeder cattle up 55 cents at $332.40. This is the Ohio AgNet.